Yeah, Gavin, you better be careful. We're coming for your children there, buddy. We're going to turn your girls into women and your boys into men.
Renowned psychologist and author Jordan Peterson recently appeared in a conversation with British television personality Piers Morgan. One of the most intriguing segments was when Piers Morgan mentioned Gavin Newsom's concern about micro-cults, referring to his children's interest in figures like Joe Rogan, Andrew Tate, and Jordan Peterson.
Gavin Newsom, who's the governor of California and many think may end up being the Democrat nominee for the presidency next year, he said this. He said, I have a very serious conversation with my eldest daughter about the chat bots on Snapchat. I really worry about the misinformation, disinformation about what's happening with our country. But I really worry about these micro cults that my kids are in. I say micro cults because I don't know if there's a better way to describe it. My son is asking me about Andrew Tate, Jordan Peterson, and then immediately he's talking about Joe Rogan. And I'm like, here it is, the pathway. And when I read that, I sort of laughed because I thought, what pathway do you think that is?
The micro-cult comment, that's just ridiculously funny, because if you are daft enough to think that Joe Rogan is a micro-cult, you live in 1995. Joe Rogan is the most powerful journalist who's ever lived by an order of magnitude. And if you don't know that, you're just not in the modern world. And young people are in the modern world, and they know that Joe Rogan isn't a microcult, and Gavin Newsom might not know that, but that just means that he's anachronistic enough to be deluded.
Peterson urged politicians like Gavin Newsom to be curious about why their children are drawn to these microcults. He suggested that instead of dismissing them, there should be an effort to understand the appeal of these voices.
Maybe if Newsom had a clue, he'd be curious about why his own children are interested in these microcults and exactly what it is about, let's say, Tate and Rogan and I that are grouped together, even though it's a strange grouping. There should be some curiosity on Newsom's front, trying to figure out why it is that this degree of popularity exists. I tweeted out after that, it's like, well, yeah, Gavin, you better be careful. We're coming for your children there, buddy. We're going to turn your girls into women and your boys into men. And I know that's a dreadful proposition, but, well, you know, it's just so preposterous.
In a surprising revelation, Peterson shared that he had invited many Democrats to his podcast, but most were too terrified to accept.
I have invited many Democrats onto my podcast. And one has agreed, and that's going to be broadcast soon. But for years I've worked, and I have very many contacts with Democrats, by the way. They're all terrified to come on my podcast. They won't talk to me. And so if it is a microcult, at least half the reason for that is that the damn useful idiots on the progressive side, let's say, are too terrified of the woke mob to come out and actually have a conversation.